Welcome to Canada's podcast.
Hi, this is Celine Williams, hosting from Ontario for Canada's podcast. My guest today is Melanie Chin, who is the Brand and Community Manager for CIBC Square, Toronto's new international standard of community, providing an elevated environment for all to thrive through work, wellness, and sustainability. Thank you for joining me today, Melanie.
Great to be here, Celine. How are you?
I am doing well. How are you?
Good. It's a nice sunny day. So
always a bonus.
I'm going to sit outside right after this and just soak up the sun.
Perfect. So I'm going to, I think that all of our Canadian listeners are familiar with CIBC as an institution. But I'm also guessing many of them, like me, had not heard of CIBC Square. So can you kind of run us through really quickly what CIBC Square is and what you do there, what your role is?
Yeah, for sure. CIBC Square is or will be two 3 million square foot office towers. One is each are 1.5 million square feet, located in downtown Toronto. If you're driving in Toronto and you're by Scotiabank Arena, you'll see the first tower, which is 81 Bay. Online right now, it has the beautiful diamonds out front. There's a lot of photos on Instagram with the sunset hitting it. It's absolutely beautiful. It was designed by Wilkinson Eyre out of London, England, and it is developed by Ivanhoe Cambridge and Hines. And so CIBC has their name in the name of the building because they are the anchor tenant. So they get naming rights to it, and they helped create the space and helped really shape the things that we were doing in the space. For example, accessibility is really important to them. So we looked at that in the development of the towers. And so they've been really great partners for us. And so we're happy to have them on the name of the two towers.
Very cool. And so tell me a little bit about what makes CIBC Square different from every other tower in downtown Toronto.
I would say the architecture is absolutely stunning, but I may be a little biased. But the towers are developed with sustainability, wellness, and the human experience in mind. So we are LEED Platinum, which means that very sustainable materials are used in the building. The water reusage, is top of the line. We use gray water to water the plants on the property. With a WELL building, it's actually a certification. There's the WELL Building Institute. You might see some commercials on TV right now with like Michael B. Jordan and Robert De Niro talking about WELL health and safety. They're a leading creditor in commercial real estate where they look at the building, how it's developed, and apply certain credits towards it, and can call you like a WELL building after that. And so for us, we have we looked at our air and how we're bringing air into the building. How much natural light do we have in the building? Access to green space. CIBC Square is going to be home to the first elevated park in Toronto. So it's going to go right over the railroad tracks, right by Union Station, and connect the two towers when the second tower is done. We also have a pretty robust art program because we've seen through studies that art plays a really strong role on employees' morale. So we've developed the building with all of that in mind. And we've also looked at ways to make it a more active building as well. And we're also a wired building. So every inch of the property is Wi-Fi enabled. With bigger buildings these days, the higher up you get, the worse the cell phone signal gets. But we've added boosters. And so no matter where you are on the property, you should get cell phone service, even if you're in the ground level or the P2 level of the garage. You should always be connected, which I think is really helpful for us going back to work now too, where people don't necessarily want to work at their traditional desks and they want to work from different spaces. CIBC Square has been designed with pretty much all of that in mind, giving people the options to choose how they work every day to be their most effective selves. So that is, how we're a little different than everyone else.
So I'm curious, you mentioned that that CIBC Square is an active building. Can you tell me what that means?
Yeah. So we have a fitness center on site that is exclusively for our tenants. It is a much lower rate than all the other gyms that you have here in Toronto. Then we also have our park, which the tenants will have direct access to. The park will actually be open to the public as well. But we have a 4-story beautiful staircase on the exterior of the building, which we encourage people to use. So they're getting their steps in versus, taking an elevator everywhere. And then we'll have programming in the building for our tenants, that are more active and wellness and mental health, wellness, oriented. And so that's the way that we call ourselves an active building. We also have bike parking on site and bike facilities with showers. So if you're biking in the summer, very humid in Toronto, you're going to sweat no matter what, and you want to be nice and fresh for work, you can park your bike, you can go take a shower, and then you can be ready for work nice and fresh. And it's, we've got 300 spaces for that. So we're really encouraging an active lifestyle at the property. And because we are connected to Union Station, we're looking at walkability too. We're encouraging people to walk around, walk to their meetings. But we do still have parking on site for those who do want to drive.
Got it.
Different facets of how we be active.
Got it. So I'm curious so I'm going to take a step back. So I think at this point in the never-ending pandemic, it is pretty clear that the way that the world works has changed permanently. And I recognize there's a lot of debate, but the most organizations that we're seeing this in the States, especially because they're just further ahead in this time period than we are going hybrid, right? Not everyone is going back to work. Not everyone is staying remote. There's some version of hybrid where and whenever possible. And it's a big selling point for workplaces these days. So I'm curious from your perspective and, what you see the future of the workplace being, whether there's trends that you're seeing coming up, what real estate requests, whatever it is, what are you seeing, or what are you, based on kind of the space that you specialize in, what are you seeing the future of the workplace potentially looking like in the next few years? Because obviously, who knows in 10 years?
Yeah, for sure. It's great that you asked that, because an article came out in the Toronto Star a few days ago with data on that and what people are wanting to see throughout Canada. And 41% of people said that they wanted a hybrid workspace. And so, we're seeing our tenants, listen to that and try to accommodate for that. But I'm a little bit more of the conservative. I think more people will go back to work on a regular basis than others. I look at it kind of like that unlimited vacation policy, that came out a few years where people like Netflix and LinkedIn tried to test that and pilot that and, see what would come of it if we gave employees unlimited vacation time, and they actually saw people use less vacation time than more. And so I think what people really want is a sense of autonomy and the ability to choose and really shape their lives. I think we will see more people trend to going into the office than at home, probably at first too, because we've been stuck at home for so long. We want a change of pace. We want to connect with our coworkers. Probably we'll see maybe a trend a little bit more in the winter time to staying at home because no one wants to really commute, but then it will probably balance out after that. And we might see numbers that we saw pre-pandemic. And this is just my, assumption based on human behavior and trends that we've seen in the past. But for our tenants, the ways that they're adapting, they're just looking at de-densification. So before the pandemic, there was this a trend towards densifying space and making it super efficient. I think now that we're seeing companies de-densifying, giving their employees the flexibility to work in different spaces, but within the office space. So are they assigned to a particular desk? Not anymore. Can they come in and book a desk if they want? Yes. But can they go work from an armchair in the lounge area? Probably. Or, for us at CIBC Square, we have our tenant lounge. If they want to come work from there, where it's, farm style tables, a lot more of an opportunity to co-work and connect with other people. I do think we'll see people trend to more of that work style, because it does offer them the ability to connect with others, which we've all been missing so much these past months, sorry. Sense of time, what is it even anymore?
Totally gone. I get it. I get it.
Yeah, but I do think that our tenants see the value in having a workspace and an office, a central office, to build community, collaboration, and connection. I think that it's also a really great way for a company to express their brand too. And so we can see that as an important factor in a company and business building too, because that creates loyalty, a sense of community. And when you have that loyalty, sense of community, it's less likely, it reduces turnover, right? And so I think that's really important. And I think that this pandemic has allowed our, leaders to take a pause and take a step back and say, like, what is the type of culture that I want to create, and how do I want to support my employees? And then they've then been able to reshape their spaces to reflect that and rethink what the office means to them. So I think it's been a silver lining of this entire thing. We're probably going to see employers look at the individual employee and what they want a lot more now, and what makes sense to them, because they want their people back in the office. So they need to understand why are they hesitant to come back into the office, and listen to those things. And so, if an employee didn't like something before and they want to see a change in their space, this is probably the time within reason to share that and give that feedback, because it is a new normal that we're all creating. And, we can be a part of the change, or we can just sit back and just listen to it and just complain. So it's a really interesting time, I think, for tenants or employers, but I call them tenants, and employees.
So what are you hearing or seeing that employers or tenants are looking for? Like, what are the most important things that they're looking for or considering right now?
I think top of mind, it is, the health and wellness aspect of the building, right? What is the HVAC system? What are the filters that are going into the building? How many touch points are there for me to get from the front door to my desk? We're seeing, I think you've seen, if you walk downtown, a lot more of the wave sensors for the doors, and elevator buttons. We don't really want to touch those. They're going to more touchless. CIBC Square has actually a really unique destination dispatch system, which you scan your card and it can be preloaded to your floor. So you scan it and it tells you which elevator bank to go to. So you're not actually touching anything at all, which is really cool. And it's really helpful in this, return to work, what is safe, what is not environment. I think that is one of the biggest things that we're seeing, the focus on health and wellness, clean air, access to natural light, and what we're doing at the property level to make everyone feel safe. So how often are we cleaning? What are the policies and procedures we have in place if someone does test positive? And so just making our tenants feel assured that they're in a safe space and it's okay to come to work. And then just listening to some of their concerns and trying to understand how we help them feel more comfortable is really an area of focus for tenants as tenants of our building, and then as employers looking at their employees.
So And I think a lot of that makes sense, right? Like coming off a coming off like the pandemic is over, having still been in the never-ending pandemic. I think a lot of that makes sense as their immediate concerns right now, right? Like that is, keeping things clean and being aware of how far we are from people and touchless, like 100% makes sense. What do you think so I'm a firm believer that the things that matter now are pretty much irrelevant in 3 to 5 years at the rate of change that we are going through at this point in time, because they either become irrelevant in the sense that they either don't matter anymore because things have changed, or they just become so part of this is how we do things that they're irrelevant because they're not something we think consciously about, right? This is just the default. Yeah. So in 3 to 5 years, do you have, because we always chat before these interviews, our guests know that, or our audience knows that. And so you were saying that this building was really designed with that sort of 5-year vision, like really future focus at the time. So at this point, 5 years down the road, what do you think will matter then? Like, what's the next step of the future of the workplace?
That is a really great question. I really think that the trend that we're seeing is towards hospitality and experiences. And so, with employees have the ability to choose to come into work with this hybrid work style, if that continues to stay, what are we doing at the property level to make people want to come in? And how do we elevate that? What, they're going to weigh, is it worth the commute in? Say if they moved out to the suburbs during the pandemic, why am I going to trek in? That's different than me staying at home. So they're going to weigh the benefits of coming in or not. So we at the property level have to think of ways to make it appealing for people to come in, outside of their office space. And so the company can do, what they can, but as the landlord and the property, we want to help our tenants get their employees back to the office. So what are we going to do to create that draw? And so it's going to look at hospitality, alleviating points of friction in people's lives so that when they do come into the office, it's really great. They can speak to our concierge that we actually have at CIBC Square and be like, hey, I need a reservation this day at this place. Can you help me out with that? Where they probably can't get that at home, right? Or, oh, I'm running to a meeting. Do you happen to have some water? And then, our concierge gives them a bottle of water to take with them, or, that human connection. You can't get that at home. And you can probably learn a lot through these connections and then the networking too. So that's from the hospitality standpoint. That's just one example of it. But then through the experience standpoint, we've lost 18 months of networking, and networking is so crucial to business. And so creating experiences that allow people to create connection and network too, and to make up for that lost time is going to be really important. So in 5 years, I think that people will have gotten used to experiences, and they're now going to think of it, connecting with their building as something that's natural to them. And so for me, and what I do in the community management area is, how do I elevate those experiences? And how do they add value to my community members' lives? And then how does it help? And I call community members my general population of my building. But then how does that help my tenants too? Does that help bring their brand purpose to life? So if I have a tenant that's really into, the building is sustainable, but I'm just going to use this as an example. If I have a tenant that's really into tree planting, I'm not going to do like a wood chopping event, right? I'm going to do something that heroes their values, and so that they can express it in a different way. And so I think that's what we'll see more of experiential activations happening within a tenant space, and more of brand expressions for tenants and properties as well.
Cool. So I'm going to, as we wrap this up, I'm going to ask the question I always ask, which is there anything that we didn't talk about or didn't get into that you want to mention, or that you want to emphasize that you mentioned? And because we covered a lot of different sort of pieces of the future of the workplace and what it could look like and what it is, where it's at right now. So is there anything you want to emphasize or that we didn't get into that you want to talk about?
Oh, we talked about so much. I think my last words would be, I do think that the office is a great space for community building and culture, and for businesses to really get to know, give them a platform to get to know their employees and create those connections. And so I'm excited to see where it's heading in the future and how we pivot. But I do think that the office is here to stay. It might be in a different format, and how we use it might be slightly different, but I do think that it is key to a business and building and growing.
Got it. Well, thank you, Melanie, for chatting with me about this today. I appreciate your time very much. It was a super interesting conversation. I know for those of us who are thinking about what the future of the workspace will look like, this will be super relevant. So thank you for your time.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
And to the audience, thanks for listening to Canada's podcast. Like, comment, and subscribe to all our channels to get the latest podcasts from entrepreneurs across Canada.